Hello my beautiful people, it is your girl Jackie B here to do a video that is super overdue because this list of books that I'm about to share with you guys probably will not change weeks from now. If only the list will be longer, but these books that I'm about to share with you guys have been my favorites and will always be in the top 10 or however many books this is, the top 10 list or whatever, you know, whenever people ask me for book suggestions and books. So these books are nonfiction. I will do another live for fiction books, but I really wanted to focus on nonfiction books today because not only are these the easiest for me to pick out because I know which ones I would suggest off the bat like that, but this got the most votes in the poll that I posted. So I have, I don't think it's 10, I think it's only 9, almost there. So these are 9 nonfiction books that if I could shove them down every single person's throat, I would. If I could memorize every single word and just have it like implanted in my brain to pull out an indie handy dandy moment, I would. I wanted, should I present them in some type of order? Nah, okay. We're gonna start with like the simplest and then we'll go to the most complex. I'll do it that way because there are some of these that require long explanations or I have a lot that I could say, and then there are others that really I just have a little bit to say, but they're still very important. So up first, we have Meditations for Women Who Do Too Much by Ann Wilson Schaef. Now, the reason I suggest this book is it's something that you can use every single day. I read each page, or I read a page every single day. Every now and then I will forget, and it really makes me mad and messes me up when I forget. But there is a meditation for every single day of the year. And so if you're not a big reader, but you want to get into reading, not only is this a good book for that, because read a page a day. You can read a page a day. You can. That is 100% possible for you. So not only can you read a page a day, but the page that you do read will be life-changing, or it'll really inspire some thought or some change in you, and it's a really good book to have handy. Like I said, read it every single day. Love it. So that's Meditations for Women Who Do Too Much by Ann Wilson Schaef. Up next, I'm going to share this one. It's called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter. Hope I'm saying that right. I've had this book for a long time and I plan to keep it forever. This book changed my life in the sense that I had never realized how much we as people in general talk to ourselves. We have conversations with ourselves all the time, all throughout the day. Like we're in our heads talking. And it's important that we pay attention to these things, that we're just boom, 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 boom in our head, because our subconscious and our brain and all these other things are taking note of that and applying it to our body, to our life, to our actions, to whatever. And so this book changed my life because it helped me be more aware of the types of things that I'm saying to myself, or the types of messages, notes, words, or whatever I'm allowing to filter through my head, and the ones that I'm holding on to versus letting go and all the good stuff. Anyway, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter. Super good. Up next, let's talk about eating animals. So eating animals changed my life because it got me to stop eating meat. Before I read this book at the beginning of quarantine. It was like one of the first books that I read whenever quarantine happened and all that stuff. And I had given up beef and pork about a year or two before then because I had already gotten to a point where I knew that was easily replaceable. It didn't really taste that good to me. I felt really bad for the pigs and cows, honestly, whatever. But it was very hard for me to give up chicken and fish. This book was all I needed to read for me to finally give up chicken and fish, and I gave it up cold turkey. I didn't do it one by one. I didn't slowly do it. I just said, no, fuck it. I'm not eating that shit no more. And this book does a really good job at, like, Johnathan, he's not necessarily trying to persuade you to be a vegetarian or a vegan, and that's why I like it. It's not propaganda. He's not trying to manipulate you. He just gives you the facts and tells you what it is and tells you what really happens and tells you how it affects your body, the environment, all these things. And he says, do whatever you want with that information. You can apply it to your life or you don't have to. It's totally up to you. But like I said, after I read it, I was like, holy shit, I'm definitely applying this. And so unfortunately, I have slipped up after I didn't eat any meat whatsoever for a little bit over a year. Recently, I have been eating a little bit of chicken and fish, and I've kind of been beating myself up for it, if I'm being honest, because I know better. But I know that if I go through this again or reread some of the parts in this, that I will probably, once again, not touch a piece of chicken and fish, and hopefully never again next time I give it up. So fingers crossed. But Eating Animals by Johnathan Safran Foer. Probably destroying that name, but like I said, super, super good. Up next, let's talk about this book. So this is Why Good People Do Bad Things by James Hollis. And I bought this book, sorry y'all, this is my Roomba. I bought this book 3 or 4 years ago. When I first got it, it was very difficult for me to read, and so it just kind of sat on. That's what I get for not moving it, because I should have moved earlier. You done, sis? All right. So when I originally got this book a couple years ago, it was really difficult for me to read. And so it collected dust on my shelf for a while because like I said, it was just very deep. The vocabulary was just extensive, and it was just a lot. So when I finally picked it up again a couple months ago-ish, and reread it, and I was able to kind of take it chapter by chapter, day by day. And you can see the post-its if y'all could see up close in the pages. Like I have hella notes, underlines, all that stuff, because it was just a really good book. But this book changed my life because it helped me not only understand what the shadow side is, or what everyone's shadow is, but it helped me learn how to work with it, how to heal the wounds that are within it, and how to recognize the shadow in other people, and how to kind of even help them take a look at their own shadow. But Why Good People Do Bad Things, really, really, really good. And it's also a good book to have if you're someone like me who beats themselves up a lot whenever they make mistakes or do what people would consider something bad. This is a really good book to have for kind of how to rearrange your awareness or consciousness of those types of actions. So, Why Good People Do Bad Things by James Hollis. Let's do this one. So, Talking God. We've got Talking God by Gary Cutting. Talking God, Philosophers on Belief. Easily one of my favorite books for multiple reasons, but I like it because I love a good book that can help me see a bunch of things from a bunch of different points of view. You know, instead of me having to buy a book on subject A and subject B and subject C and having to compare all the three, it's super, super nice whenever there is a book that compares A, B, and C, and A with B and B with C, whatever, all in one. And this is one of those books that does it. So in Talking God, Gary Cutting interviews a variety of people, and he asks them questions on their beliefs or what they study. And when I say everyone, literally he interviews someone from everything. So let's see, we've got a case for theism, a case for atheism, experience and belief, soft atheism, religion and cosmology, religion and evolution, a Muslim perspective, Hinduism, Buddhism, religion and knowledge, and everything. He interviews someone that believes from damn near every corner, every belief in the world. And, well, not every belief. Let me chill, because there's thousands of those. But you get my point. It's a very, very diverse book, and it was very interesting to be able to read and learn about some of these perspectives, because although I am not a religious person and I don't have a religion, there is one interview in here where he is interviewing an atheist, and I can't find it. I can't think of it exactly. So I'm definitely paraphrasing. But basically the guy says, even though, I don't agree with religion and I'm not religious, I am able to recognize the importance that religion has on our history. And that even though it's not something that I may live my life by or something that I agree with, I do understand that the way it came about and the influence that it has is important and has hidden messages behind it in it. But again, that's just one of the interviews out of many. But whether you're religious or not, read this book just to get a better idea at how different beliefs work, and to even kind of make yourself think about your own beliefs and perspectives and compare them to others and all that good stuff. But Talking God, Philosophers on Belief, by Gary Cutting. Okay. Up next, we've got Astrology for Dummies. Now, I had to put this one on the list, or I have to bring this one up, because this book really did change my life. Because not only has astrology become something that I am madly in love with and obsessed with and have applied it to so many things, but it's helped me change other people's lives as well. And so if you've heard me talk about my journey with astrology before, you would know that I got into it originally to debunk it and kind of be a smartass and pick all the things with it that were wrong. But the more that I got into it and the more that I learned, the more that I was able to realize that it's not supposed to be something that's used as fact or predict fate, but it's a guide and it's a symbol, just like everything in life is a symbol. And so it's changed my life in the sense of it's helped me understand myself, my relationships with others, and just simplify the complexity that is this world. Everything around us and everything about this life and existence is complex as fuck. So we use symbols for everything. And so astrology is a symbol that I can relate to, I enjoy, I like, I understand, all that good stuff. So Astrology for Dummies, if you're wanting to get into astrology, if it's something that interests you, start with Astrology for Dummies. It is a fantastic beginner's starter book if you're wanting to get into that, or just have astrology books, whatever. So these last three I have saved for last because, hold on, let me let my dog go sit down. Get in your chair. Get in your chair, sis. No? Okay. So I have saved these last three for last because these three are probably my favorite. Top three. These books are life-changing books. I really hope one day to meet both of these authors, and I will probably fangirl like crazy and act like a child and not be able to control myself. But yeah, so these are the, drum roll please, like ba-dum-bum-bum books. First, let's do these first. I'll say this one for last. So first, let's talk about Sam Harris. Sam Harris is hands down one of my favorite authors. Amazing. If you've heard of Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, they're very famous evolutionist, atheist writers, and Sam Harris is also up there with them, excuse me. But Sam Harris he's a little less aggressive than Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens, but his writing is also a little easier to understand, and he writes just a little less scientific-y and more Englishy, and his writing is kind of funny. He adds a little bit of comedy, and he's just always not as serious as Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens. But two of his books that changed my life are Free Will and Waking Up. Now, I would suggest reading Free Will first if you're going to read one of these, because one, Free Will is 72 pages or something like that. So I read Free Will in one day. You can too. But it's a short book on a big subject. And so I love this book because he's talking about something that is very complex, and he's able to fit it into 72 pages, and he does it very well. So in Free Will, Sam Harris describes or explains why we don't have free will, or why free will is an illusion. I think it's kind of well known that in a lot of religions, specifically Christianity, that God giving us free will is very important, or it plays like a major role in a lot of religious stories. So Sam Harris talks about why free will is an illusion and why we actually don't have free will, and that we confuse our ability and awareness of making choices as free will. And so I could talk for days or go on a whole different live about that, but the part that I have, again, underlined so many parts of this book, it's amazing, but the part that I wanted to share with you guys, okay, so this is like a shortened, very, very shortened snippet of like how deep and amazing this book is. But he says, the idea that we as conscious beings are deeply responsible for the character of our mental lives and subsequent behavior is simply impossible to map onto reality. Consider what it would take to actually have free will. You would need to be aware of all of the factors that determine your thoughts and actions, and you would need to have complete control over those factors. So let me say that again. Consider what it would take to actually have free will. You would need to be aware of all the factors that determine your thoughts and actions, and you would need to have complete control over those factors. That is not something that we can do. When I wake up in the morning and I choose to have a cup of black tea out of my cactus-shaped mug, sure, it's easy for me to be like, yeah, I chose to have black tea. I chose to pick to have it in my cactus mug, but why did you choose the tea? Why did I choose my cactus mug? It's not really within my ability or my awareness to be able to think back onto what happened, what happened for me to be like, black tea this morning, cactus mug, why? What was influencing me? What was going through my mind? What was whatever? And again, he does a much better job at explaining. He goes way more into it. But Free Will by Sam Harris, life-changing book, completely will change the way you think about making decisions and how you look at the decisions that you've made. Gosh, my stutter is on point today. Another book by Sam Harris. Sorry, I put a Post-it note on it so I wouldn't forget what I want to say about it. Another book by Sam Harris that changed my life is Waking Up. Waking Up, a guide to spirituality without religion. Now, when I tell you that this book right here is life-changing, like when you finish it, you will never look at life the same. You will never look at your thoughts the same, and just like everything will change. And so whenever people talk about, you know, waking up or beginning their spiritual journey or their spiritual awakening, when I started mine, it was after I read this book or while I was reading this book. I also read this around the time when quarantine started and Rona hit and all that stuff. This is one of the first books that I read, and it was just like, again, just when you read certain things that someone has thought of, your mind sometimes just blows because you're like, holy shit, how did you think of that? Like, and why has no one told me that before? So this book definitely started my spiritual awakening, and it also expanded my understanding of and my vocabulary on consciousness. So consciousness is thought, like kind of like if I was to say the brain named itself. Like when you really think about it, the brain named it the brain. And so I have always really been fascinated with and interested in thought and human thought and what we do with our thoughts and where thoughts come from and stuff like that. And so consciousness is a big topic in this book. And then also the whole reason, well, not the entire reason, but the main reason I was ever comfortable doing shrooms or trying shrooms was because of this book, because there is a section in here where he talks about trying psychoactive drugs and trying psychedelic drugs. And he talks about his experience with LSD. He talks about his experience with shrooms. I think he actually talks about his experience with weed a little bit as well. But I was very hesitant to try shrooms or anything psychedelic or psychoactive for a long time until I read this book. And so I actually put a note here so that I could like read you guys the quick little snippet that he said. He says, all psychoactive drugs modulate the existing neurochemistry of the brain, either by mimicking specific neurotransmitters or by causing the neurotransmitters themselves to be more or less active. In English, what he's saying is all psychoactive drugs are doing things that your brain is already capable of doing. It's basically either strengthening something that your brain can already do, it's weakening it, or it's mimicking it and like making a bunch of them. Everything that one can experience on a drug is at some level an expression of the brain's potential. Hence, whatever one has seen or felt after ingesting LSD is likely to have been seen or felt by someone somewhere without it. So basically all the things that you experience on drugs, the way that you feel, your emotions, your entire experience is something that you were able to experience without the drug. The drug is just helping your brain have that experience. And so when he goes to talk about his experience with shrooms and why he suggests that people do shrooms, and then me being a person who has done shrooms, and this is going to sound crazy, if you haven't done shrooms, you're going to have no idea what I'm talking about right now. But if you have done shrooms, you're going to be like, yes, 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 yes. But when you do shrooms, the filter that your brain has to make everyday life to you make sense completely goes off. And so the way that life looks to you when you're on shrooms, specifically nature, like trees, leaves, the sun, the sky, you know, whatever, they look alive and they look like they're breathing. And you can really feel and appreciate the life that everything around you has. And so now that I've done shrooms and I reread that makes so much sense, because how things look when you're on shrooms is probably how they really look. You just can't see it when you're not on shrooms because your brain has that filter on. Again, if you've done shrooms, that makes sense. If you haven't, now you kind of want to try them, and you should. Feel free to message me and ask questions. But not to get sidetracked and turn this into like a shroom talk. Blah, blah, blah. Another thing I wanted to mention that I've always really enjoyed, because it's so true. He said, positive psychedelic experiences often reveal how wondrously at ease in the universe a human being can be. And for most of us, normal waking consciousness does not offer so much as a glimmer of those deeper possibilities. Again, shrooms will take off that filter. You'll see life like you've never seen it before. That's just a small snippet of something that I've learned and that has always stuck with me about this book. But again, there's a reason that I have saved this for one of the last ones I'll talk about, because it's beautiful, it's amazing, it's written so well. Read it. And if you read it and you have a hard time with it, or it's difficult, or it's deep, please reach out to me. Like, ask me questions. I would love to help, because the contents of this book need to be learned and understood by everybody on this fucking planet. So, Waking Up, A Guide to Spirituality Without Religion by Sam Harris. Please, go get it. Now, and Free Will by Sam Harris. Amazing too. Now, I have saved the best for last. And honestly, if you've been following me for a while, or if you know me personally, this really should not come as a surprise that I've saved the best for last. Or it really shouldn't surprise you which one is my last. Come on now. The Anatomy of Loneliness by Teal motherfucking Swan. Y'all, this woman, fangirling. She's not even here, and I'm like fangirling in my head, and I'm having so many words coming to my head right now that I can't even get them out because, I mean, first of all, look at it. I have Post-its in it for days. There are so many parts of this book that I have either highlighted or like made notes on, or just, it's a life-changing book. This book should be mandatory for high schoolers to read, honestly. If I was a high school teacher, I don't care what class I taught, I would somehow make this a part of my curriculum, because the ideas that are presented in this book would have not only changed my life years ago, but it would have helped me immensely with so many things. And I'm grateful that, you know, I have gotten to read it now. When I think I was 26 when I read this, but damn, I would have loved to read this book when I was 20 or 21. Like, I needed this book a long time ago, and I feel like there are a lot of people that need this book. It's called The Anatomy of Loneliness, and when I suggest it to people, the first thing that I know that they think, if they don't say it to me, is, well, I'm not lonely. I'm not lonely. I don't struggle with loneliness. But it's not loneliness in the sense of like, oh, I want a boyfriend, oh, I need friends, or whatever. It's like it's breaking away from yourself. It's like feeling lonely in the sense of coming back to you. And she talks about fear, she talks about shame, she talks about guilt, love, connections. Just, I can't even pick just one section to read to you guys or share to you guys, because the entire book is beautiful. And she will forever be one of, not only will she always be one of my favorite people on this planet, but this book will always be one of my favorite books. It will forever be a book that changed my life and completely changed the way that not only I handle myself, but how I handle other people, how I talk to other people, how I think about myself, how I think about other people, how I think about my parents, how I think about my partner, how everything about everything changed for me when I read this book. I'm telling you. And I knew I was going to like it when I read it because I love Teal Swan, but I honestly was not prepared for the ride that this book took me on. Wasn't ready. Completely changed my life. Like, it was so good that now I only go back and I read certain parts, but I don't think I could ever read it as a whole again. I will one day, because but it's going to take me a while, because the emotions that I felt and the roller coaster that this book put me through was necessary. It was needed for my growth, but damn, it was intense. So, Anatomy of Loneliness by Teal Swan. Those are the non-fiction books that I have that have changed my life. Oh, wait, no, we got one more. Oh, we got one more. I didn't see it. When I was walking around my house earlier, making sure I got everything. Oh my gosh, wow. You know, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes things really happen. Like, I really do think that I made that last little glance around because my gut or something in me was like, you're forgetting one. And this is a really important one. Another one that has like, hello, whatever. So, Teal Swan will definitely still probably be like my number one, but this is in my top 3 as well. Looking at Gay and Lesbian Life by Warren Blumenfeld and Diane Raymond. Looking at Gay and Lesbian Life. Like, I'm not going to get super emotional because I will start crying on this live, and this isn't the live for that. But this book helped me understand my sexuality so much, and it also helped me become more confident and comfortable being open about my sexuality. I started reading it around the time that my girlfriend and I started dating, and I had a lot of questions about myself, my sexuality. Just a lot was going through my mind at the time, and reading this book answered so many of my questions, and it also helped me have better ways to communicate my ideas and sexuality to other people. And so again, I could do a whole separate live on this book, but for now, for all my people out there, I don't care if you're straight or straight, you need this book, Looking at Gay and Lesbian Life. So when we look around, all right, we're good. All right, yes, now we're officially good. So those are the books. Those are the non-fiction books that have absolutely changed my life. So we've got Meditations for Women Who Do Too Much. We've got What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. We've got Eating Animals. Why Good People Do Bad Things. Talking God, Philosophers on Belief. Astrology for Dummies. Waking Up and Free Will by Sam Harris. He is the GOAT. looking at gay and lesbian life, I'm so glad that I didn't forget this, because this book is definitely a major key, plays a major role. And then last but definitely not least, because this is number one, if you don't get any of these books that I just listed or talked about, this is the one book you better get. This is the one I want you to get. Anatomy of Loneliness by Teal Swan, please. And if you guys get them, please let me know so we can talk about it. And if there is any one of these books that you want to hear about specifically, or that you would like for me to do a whole separate video on and for me to expand on, leave a comment, let me know all the good stuff, and I would love to come on and talk about any of these books in length or at length, because I really am madly in love and obsessed with them all, and I love talking about books in general. I'm actually about to get off and go read a book right now, so I hope you guys have an amazing day. Sending positive vibes from me to you through the phone. Take them, take them, take them, take them, take them. And I will talk to you guys soon. Much love.